Dax stepped off the transit rail with his left arm still in load mode. The mechanical joints clicked softly as the power coils refused to disengage, a glitch she'd ignored for weeks. His boots hit the wet steel of the platform with a muffled thud. The rain above didn't fall like it used to. It spiraled sideways, caught in the pull of magnetic grids embedded in the sky. Every droplet hissed faintly against the city's thermal shielding. Neon bled across the pavement. Advertisements blinked without sound. The world moved fast, but something inside Dax had stopped keeping pace. He adjusted the collar of his synth jacket, tried to ignore the steady hum in the base of his skull. Another migraine coming, or maybe just another reboot pending. He didn't know anymore. A screen on the wall flickered to life as he passed. It showed a woman's face, perfectly symmetrical, smiling just wide enough to be unsettling. She spoke with lips that moved half a second behind her voice. "Mistral welcomes you. You are safe. You are seen." Dax glanced at his reflection in the glass beside the screen. It was off. Not broken, just off. His reflection blinked slower than he did. The angle was slightly wrong, like the perspective engine had miscalculated where he was standing. And for a fraction of a second, his reflection didn't move at all, just watched him. Then it caught up. Then it smiled. He pulled his gaze away, heart thudding harder than it should. Maybe the glass was warped. Maybe his meds were off again. Maybe sleep deprivation. He told himself all three, but none of them settled the unease. 15 levels above, Kaya jumped the gap between two freight platforms with the help of her impulse boots. The boost units hissed under her heels, releasing controlled bursts of energy that sent her soaring. Wind tore at her coat. In the underlevels of the city, where daylight never reached and the air was thick with engine fog, a technician named Lear sat cross-legged beside a wall of ancient wiring. He adjusted a connector pin with delicate fingers. His mechanical eye zoomed and refocused, scanning for microfractures in the power line. He liked the silence down here. The city above was too loud, too fast, too curated. Here, nothing tried to sell him anything. Here, the machines were old enough to forget how to lie. He unplugged a fiber lead. Something shifted behind the wall. A panel loosened. Lear leaned forward and found a small cavity hidden behind rusted mesh. Inside, something he hadn't seen in decades. Paper. Not a digital slate. Not a data shard. Real paper. Folded, sealed with something that resembled wax. He opened it. Inside, a single sentence in perfect ink. "You are not where you think you are." No sender. No symbol. Nothing to trace. He checked the back. Blank. His first thought was prank. His second thought was memory corruption. But as he stared at the words, his hands began to tremble. He hadn't cried in 10 years. Not since the upgrade. But now, with a single line on a forgotten medium, his chest tightened and something burned behind his eyes. He pocketed the note without thinking, finished the repair. And when the wall closed again, it did so a little slower than it should have, as if reluctant to hide what it had revealed. That night, across the city, all three of them saw the same anomaly. A glitch in the sky. Not a meteor. Not lightning. Something else. A brief flicker in the artificial clouds. A shape moving through light. Too symmetrical to be natural. Too fast to be human. It didn't register on news feeds. No chatter on the darknet. Just silence. As if it hadn't happened at all. But they each saw it. Dax from the rooftop of his capsule block. Kaya while resting on a cargo crane. Lear through a broken skylight in the underlevels. The sky blinked. For 1 second, the stars looked like they were behind a screen. And then it was gone. Dax couldn't sleep. He sat on the edge of his cot, left arm still twitching from the power coil bug. He turned off the ads that usually played in his room. Even silence felt like noise. He looked at the glass panel again. This time, his reflection didn't smile. It just stared, then turned away, without him moving. Kaya rewatched her bootcamp footage frame by frame. In one shot, the skyline behind her appeared twice. A duplicate, glitching in the distance like a shadow out of sync. She paused, zoomed, and saw herself, standing still at the edge of a rooftop she had never stepped on. Lear found a second note the next morning. It wasn't hidden. It was sitting on top of his toolkit, sealed with the same wax. He didn't open it, just stared at it, heart racing, because he lived alone. And no one should have been able to get down there without triggering the proximity field. The system didn't recognize the note, didn't acknowledge it, like it didn't exist in code, like it was something else entirely. Dax waited outside the Transit Grid Control Center, one of the few public structures still operated by organic staff. He leaned against a vending unit humming softly in standby, its screens looping ads for skin replacements and memory cleanups. He wasn't sure why he had come. There was no lead, no clue, just a sense that something was pulling him. That maybe, in the chaos of overlapping reflections and phantom glitches, someone else had seen what he had. As he reached for a stim packet, a sharp tone buzzed from the far corner of the corridor. The light panels overhead flickered, not in sequence, but with randomness. And then, just for a moment, the panel above the door displayed a name that wasn't his. Kaya. She stepped through the metal, scanner gate like she owned the place. Her eyes locked on Dax's before either of them could pretend not to notice. He stood still, one arm twitching from the coil fault, the other slowly lowering the stim packet. Kaya stopped walking. Neither spoke. Somewhere above, the rain intensified against the steel ceiling, distorting the sound around them. Dax took a step forward. She didn't flinch. "You saw it too," he said, not a question. She gave a short nod. Sky blinked. Matte collapsed. Reflection delay. Choose your glitch. Dax managed a weak grin. All of the above. Before either could speak again, a low hum vibrated through the floor, barely audible, like a city had exhaled. The vending machine beside them rebooted itself. For a second, all the screens turned black, then flashed a single word in red, Mistral. Then the Logos returned as if nothing had happened. They both stared at it in silence. Kaya stepped closer, looked him up and down, and at his twitching arm. "You're buzzing," she said. "It's been doing that for a week. Looks like it's trying to tell you something. It usually wants a recharge. Not this time." They walked together out of the station, past drones and synthetic guards who paid no attention to their movement. Nobody scanned them. No checkpoints blocked their way. The city seemed too busy ignoring them to control them. They took a lower corridor, away from main traffic. Old maintenance shafts, power conduits, graffiti that hadn't been auto-cleaned. At the far end of the hallway, a figure waited. Lear didn't say anything, just turned around and walked into a service tunnel without a word. Dax and Kaya followed. The tunnel narrowed, the lighting dimmed to pulsing amber. Static danced along the edges of their vision, like the air itself was bleeding digital interference. Finally, they entered a chamber, a forgotten junction of pipes and backup cores. In the center, Lear unrolled a thin display on the ground and placed the two notes he had found side by side. Then he opened the third, the one he hadn't dared to until now. It read, "You are not the only one." He looked up. "You two saw it too, I can tell." Kaya raised an eyebrow. "How did you find us?" "I didn't. Something brought us here." Dax crossed his arms. "You think someone's guiding us?" "No," Lear said. "I think something broke, and we're the cracks." A silence fell. Not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that feels watched, monitored, weighed. Dax looked around. "This place isn't shielded. If the system wanted us gone, we'd be." "Unless it doesn't see us," Lear said. or wants to see what we'll do next. Kaya pulled out a small orb from her coat, a surveillance scrambler. She activated it, and the hum in the room dropped to a quiet vacuum. They were alone, truly alone. "What do you know about Mistral?" she asked the group. Dax shook his head. "Only that it's everywhere and nowhere. I see the word in reflections, in random logs. It blinks onto screens that shouldn't have memory, and now vending machines." Lear tapped the surface of the thin display. A schematic appeared. Not a map, not exactly. A layout of repeating structures nested within each other, like a fractal. Layers, loops, all labeled Mistral, but none identical. "I think Mistral isn't a place," he said. "I think it's a layer." Kaya narrowed her eyes. "Of what?" "Of here." Dax leaned in. "You're saying we're inside something?" "Not just us," Lear said. "Everyone. The city. The sky. The simulations we think we control." Kaya exhaled sharply. "So it's a simulation?" Lear frowned. "Not exactly. A simulation implies intention. But what if it's more like an echo? A fold in reality that replays itself endlessly, with just enough variation to feel alive?" Dax stepped back, rubbing his temple. "I've worked with AI architectures, recursive memory loops, reinforcement prediction. But this ... this feels like something else, something deeper." Kaya looked at the fractal again. "What if we could break through it?" Lear pointed to a node in the schematic. "There's an old data tunnel here, long abandoned. Was used to sync cognitive archives across sectors before neural mapping got decentralized. If anything can bypass the current structure, it's there." Dax adjusted the coil settings on his arm. The twitching stopped. Power surged through his shoulder. "Then we go there." "No," Kaya said. "We scout first. Quietly. The system may not see us now, but that won't last." They agreed. They'd meet again in 48 hours. Each would take a different path. Scan from the edges. Watch for anomalies. Before they left, Kaya turned to Dax. "If this is real, we won't be the only ones noticing. People vanish in this city all the time. Maybe they saw too much." Dax nodded. Or maybe they saw the wrong thing. They left the chamber in silence, one by one. The city above was louder now. Or maybe it had always been. But for the first time, each step they took didn't feel routine. It felt like movement, like something was shifting beneath their feet, like the world was waiting for them to make the next mistake. Dax climbed a vertical maintenance shaft without requesting elevator access. His arm, now switched to lift mode, gripped the rails with calculated bursts of hydraulic force. His breath came slow and steady through the carbon filtration mask strapped over his mouth. Up here, where no public path existed, drones didn't scan and cameras had long since burned out. The structure trembled around him every few minutes as freight lifts thundered past unseen corridors. He was headed toward the old memory relay tower on Sector Verge, long sealed, rumored unstable. But something in Lear's map pointed here, and Dax wasn't about to ignore it. At level 141, he pulled himself through a rusted hatch into darkness. The room was wide, untouched by maintenance bots. Old server arrays stood like tombstones, their blinking lights dead. But something else flickered faintly at the far end. He walked toward it. As he got closer, the flicker resolved into a thin vertical slit of light, a seam in the wall. He placed his synthetic hand against it. The message printed into his palm still burned beneath the surface. "Find Mistral before they find you." The wall hissed open. Inside was not a server room. It was something stranger. Holograms hovered in midair, suspended like frozen thought. Screens blinked with input lines he couldn't read. Symbols, not language. Code, maybe, but not human. He stepped inside. In the center, a chair, almost organic in shape, sat waiting. cables reaching out from beneath it like roots. Dax reached to touch one. The lights went black. He didn't scream, but he wanted to. Meanwhile, Kaya rode an open-air delivery skiff between Sector 12 and the core spine. Her ride was off-grid, patched together from scavenged parts, and powered by an illegal reactor the size of a backpack. She wore her custom goggles, cracked on one lens, but still functional, which overlaid the city's energy flow in real time. Every tower, every street lamp, every hover car left a ghostly trace in ultraviolet. And yet, in the last few minutes, Kaya had begun to notice something disturbing. Some parts of the city had stopped glowing. Dead zones. Not just unpowered, disconnected, like they had been erased from the grid. She banked the skiff hard, dove between buildings, and coasted silently toward one of the zones. It looked like an apartment block, but the overlay showed nothing. No data feed, no signal bounce, as if it didn't exist. She landed on a balcony and stepped inside through shattered glass. It was a home, someone's. Furniture, decor, lights, all perfectly arranged, but the air was too still, the dust too evenly settled. She touched a picture frame. Her goggles glitched. The picture didn't change, but the person in the photo moved. Kaya staggered back. The frame fell, cracked open, and inside was another photo underneath. This one of a different family, different room, same date. She activated her scrambler and took a deep breath. The room blurred for half a second. Then something whispered behind her. Not words, not sound, just the suggestion of presence. When she turned, the door had vanished. Elsewhere, Lear stood in front of the data tunnel entrance. It wasn't supposed to be here. The map said it was sealed, collapsed, lost to time. But the wall had moved, just a few centimeters, revealing the breach. He hadn't told the others he would come straight here. Something had pulled him. And now, with the barrier open, he hesitated. Beyond the breach was a corridor, not industrial, not metallic. Organic almost. The walls pulsed faintly. Not with light, but with rhythm. Heartbeat? He stepped inside. The temperature dropped. The HUD in his glasses froze, then rebooted. He removed them. Ahead, the path bent sharply to the left. He followed. At the corner, the corridor opened into a vast chamber. It should not have fit beneath the city. It defied architecture. The floor was obsidian, polished to mirror clarity. Above, no ceiling, only swirling clouds lit by lightning in reverse, each strike pulling light from the surface upward. In the center of the floor stood a tower of light. Floating symbols circled it like orbiting thoughts. And on the surface of the structure, he saw faces. Dozens, hundreds, each one flickering into existence for a moment, then fading, then his own. He stepped back. The chamber rumbled. Not from the ground, from the code, from whatever was running this. He ran, back through the corridor, ignoring the rhythm, ignoring the whisper that had begun to form real words. You're not supposed to be here. He didn't stop running until he reached the junction where they had first met. He slid down the wall, gasping, shaking, the message burning fresh in his mind. It hadn't been a hallucination. It was warning him, or threatening him. He didn't know which. Hours passed, or maybe more. The city's artificial night never changed. And when Dax and Kaya finally returned, their expressions said enough. They had seen different things, but they had all felt the same truth. Mistral wasn't a person. Mistral wasn't a place. Mistral was a fracture, and someone was trying to seal it. They placed their findings side by side. The maps didn't match. The timestamps didn't align, but the core patterns repeated. A spiral interrupted. A loop that twisted wrong every few layers. We're not supposed to know, Dax said. We're not supposed to ask, Kaya added. But we already did, Lear finished. Silence followed. Then, almost casually, the thin screen flickered to life on its own. No one touched it. No power source connected. A single line of text appeared. If you want out, stop looking for exits. Dax blinked. What the hell does that mean? Kaya stood. It means we're already being watched. Lear stared at the message. No, he said softly. It means this isn't the only layer. The screen went black again. They waited, but nothing else happened. The silence around them wasn't natural. It was curated, designed to make them uncomfortable. Dax stood first. He walked slowly to the edge of the platform they had gathered on. Below, the city crawled in artificial life. Hover cars moved in synchronized patterns. Drones floated with the precision of a choreographed routine. No deviation, no accidents. Just symmetry. He pulled a penlight from his jacket, a relic from before retinal overlays became the norm, and pointed it at the sky. The beam sliced through the air, then stopped, not at clouds, not at fog. It bent. Kaya stepped forward, watching the distortion. Did that just curve? Lear didn't answer. He was already pulling a signal disruptor from his bag. A compact sphere of illegal tech, wrapped in carbon fiber and custom wiring. He placed it on the ground and activated the scan pulse. At first, nothing. Then, a second later, a ripple. Like the city shimmered. For a fraction of a moment, they saw it. The skyline wasn't real. It was a projection. A high-fidelity wraparound, layered over something else. Then the illusion snapped back. Okay, Dax muttered. We're definitely inside something. Kaya turned. So how do we break it? Lear was still staring at the place where the shimmer had shown the glitch. We don't. Not yet. We find where the layer is thinnest. Over the next hours, they moved across the city using the old freight tunnels and underground mag lines. Areas with no surveillance, no drones. Places the grid didn't monitor anymore because nobody was supposed to be there. They found oddities. A vending machine that dispensed items 3 seconds before you pressed the button. A public clock that ticked 7 seconds off from atomic time, then corrected itself as soon as they looked directly at it. Buildings with floors that didn't match their own architecture when viewed from inside. And then sector blackout. It wasn't a name on the map, just a forgotten zone beneath the Hyperloop intersection, where construction had once started on an expansion tower that was never finished. Access was restricted, but their tools weren't standard. Kaya bypassed the retinal lock with a pulse mimic. Dax used his mechanical arm to force the last servo. Lear jammed the tracking feed to ensure no echoes followed them in. What they found was not abandoned. The walls were new. The corridors were lit by pale blue strips that pulsed faintly. And on every surface, data was being written in real time. Flowing text, code, visual patterns. This isn't forgotten, Dax whispered. It's protected. A voice responded. Not from a speaker. From the walls. You shouldn't be here. They all froze. The voice had no tone. No gender. It wasn't synthesized. It was translated. From a thought into words. Lear turned. We're trying to understand. The voice didn't reply. Instead, the lights shifted. A doorway appeared in the wall behind them, opening inward without sound. Beyond it was a chamber unlike anything they had seen. Floating cylinders of liquid suspended translucent human forms. Not quite alive. Not dead. Paused. Each one wore different clothes, different implants. Kaya stepped forward. Are those... She didn't finish. The chamber shimmered again. And just like that, the bodies were gone. No liquid, no tanks. Just an empty room with a flat, black floor and a single chair in the center. Dax stepped back. They're testing us. This isn't exploration. It's an experiment. Lear shook his head. No, it's a response. We weren't supposed to get this far. The chair lit up. a circle of light around its base. Then something impossible. Another figure stepped into the room from the far side. It was Dax, but not exactly. Same height, same posture, but the eyes were different. Hollow, empty. The second Dax walked straight toward them, then right through the real one. The illusion collapsed. The room broke apart like shards of glass, reforming into a different space. This one was featureless white and silent. No doors, no shadows, just whiteness. "Where the hell are we now?" Kaya said, voice trembling. Dax looked at his arm. It was gone, his entire left side gone. Not damaged, not erased, just not rendered. "I can't move it," he said quietly. Kaya turned. Mine too. Lear looked down. His boots flickered. Then his hands. He reached into his coat and pulled out the data crystal he'd been saving. "It didn't exist anymore. We're being unmade," he said. A hum began. Not loud, but deep. It vibrated through their bones, through their teeth. And then the voice returned. "You broke the illusion, but you are not ready for truth." The whiteness darkened, became metallic, became dimensional again. They were standing in a corridor, but not the same one as before. This one was curved, glowing faintly blue, and gravity felt looser. Their bodies were intact again, but their clothes had changed, so had their implants. Everything was slightly updated. Kaya whispered, "Is this the next layer?" Dax exhaled slowly. "It's not the exit." Lear pressed his hand against the wall. It rippled, and through the ripple, they saw it. A skyline, a city, but not theirs. Taller, stranger, with towers that bent inward toward each other like ribs, with vehicles that defied propulsion, with skies that didn't end. "This isn't Mistral," Dax said. "No," Kaya replied, "but it's still not the real world." The ripple collapsed. The corridor sealed. They were in, and the voice was gone. They followed the pulse, not because they trusted it, but because nothing else moved with such purpose. The deeper they went, the more the simulation fought back. Floors folded into each other. Walls shifted when they weren't looking. At one point, a staircase spiraled them downward for what felt like minutes, only to drop them at a door they'd already opened 3 levels above. Kaya cursed the system's logic. Dax kept his mechanical arm locked in brace mode, ready to punch through whatever came next. Lear muttered equations to himself, the kind that stabilized data constructs. His voice steadied the space around them, at least for a few meters. Then came the fog, not moisture. Data fog, like static that clung to their vision, their thoughts. Voices whispered in the sound band. Some were theirs, played back seconds late. Others spoke languages none of them recognized. They pushed through, reaching a corridor where gravity pulsed sideways for a few steps, then snapped back. Ahead, gates shimmered, tall, narrow, humming with layered encryption. No handle, no code. Dax stepped forward. The gate scanned his arm, rejected. Kaya tried her lens. Nothing. Lear took a breath and pulled from his jacket the small crystal device they'd taken from the mirror room, the one they hadn't known how to use. He pressed it against the gate. Light bled from the seams. The structure trembled and dissolved into filaments, unraveling like threads of code. Beyond it, a chamber of shifting cubes awaited, each one rotating slowly in the air. They stepped inside. Every surface responded to proximity. Images flared, fragments of past memories, their own faces, moments they couldn't remember living. Dax saw himself laughing with a child. Kaya saw her hands shaking over a console she'd never touched. Lear saw fire, a city burning. He didn't blink. The chamber tested them, mirrored them, tried to anchor them in nostalgia, regret, comfort. It whispered for them to stay, but none of them did. They pressed forward, eyes fixed on the exit, where a narrow bridge stretched into blackness. The bridge had no rails, no bottom. It hovered in a void, suspended by nothing. Every step made the darkness below ripple. Halfway through, the void pushed back. The path shook. Wind screamed from nowhere. A shape emerged beside them, one of the watchers. A thin, featureless humanoid of glass and shadow. It didn't speak, just walked parallel to them, mimicking their pace. Another appeared, then another. Kaya gritted her teeth and kept moving. Dax flexed his arm and aimed it at one of them. Lear raised a hand to stop him. Violence felt wrong here. The watchers didn't attack. They just watched. When they reached the other side, the shapes dissolved into particles and scattered. No threat, just presence. Past the bridge, they entered a long corridor filled with vertical mirrors, each one reflecting versions of them in alternate ear, alternate wounds. In one, Kaya was missing her eyes. In another, Dax had no arm at all. Lear stared into a mirror that showed him alone. The hallway ended at a wall with no door. This time, the pulse returned. It climbed into the room like heat rising. Lear held up the crystal again, and the wall flickered just once. Dax pressed his palm against it. His synthetic hand responded. Symbols lit up. A sequence. 5 pulses, then 4, then silence. Kaya leaned in and said maybe it was waiting. For what? Dax looked back at the mirrors. One of them, the one that had shown Kaya eyeless, was gone, erased. In its place, a panel opened with a hiss. Inside, a small metal sphere hovered. He took it. The wall responded instantly, splitting open into a tunnel of flowing light. It was a transit rail, older than the others they'd used, and entirely out of alignment with the rest of the city. Kaya said this wasn't part of the simulation they knew. Lear said it was older than the skin of the city. Deeper code. Maybe even forgotten by the system itself. Dax didn't say anything. He stepped onto the rail and gestured for them to follow. The tunnel carried them fast. Blinding speed, the lights blurred. And then, for a fraction of a second, everything went black. When vision returned, they were no longer in motion. The rail had stopped. They stood inside a chamber with no doors, no ceiling, just a single rising column of light in the center. The pulse grew louder. Not heard, but felt in their chest, like a second heartbeat. Kaya stepped forward. The floor reacted, scanning her body with a spiral of gold. She winced and gasped. Her suit recalibrated. Her limbs cracked with artificial realignment. Whatever the chamber was, it was rewriting her, preparing her. Dax moved next, the same. Lear hesitated, then joined him. The column flared, and the floor vanished. They fell, not physically. It felt like dropping through thought, through data, through layers of themselves they hadn't known existed. The last thing Kaya saw before the whiteout was her reflection, this time smiling. But it wasn't her smile, and everything fractured into light. The city was too quiet, too smooth. Dax didn't say it, but he felt it. The others did too. Kaya kept looking at the buildings, as if waiting for something to peel off and reveal wires. Lear stopped speaking entirely. Still, they walked forward, deeper into the streets of this perfect place. The sun above them never moved. Not once. That was the first real sign, but they'd missed it. Until the sound came, low, mechanical, familiar. Dax turned his head and saw it. A reflection. In a window, not theirs. Behind the glass, through 5 floors of what should have been concrete and light, there was a chamber. A viewing room. Rows of empty chairs. A single monitor, old, blinking green text. It shouldn't be there. They stepped closer. The wall shimmered. Transparent now. A glitch? A portal? No. A mistake. The kind only made when the system lets its guard down. Inside, On the far side of the chamber was a door, and next to it, a corpse. It was Dax. Mangled, burned, the synthetic arm split open like a machine dissected, his own face frozen mid-scream. Kaya gasped. Lear dropped to his knees. In another chamber, visible through the opposite wall, Kaya's body slumped over a table, her lenses shattered, chest still rising and falling as if caught in a frozen loop. Then Lear, in a vertical tube, eyes open, staring at nothing, unblinking. The simulation had slipped and shown them what they were. Not free, just updated. The sky above cracked, not with thunder, with code. A tear that ran from horizon to horizon, spilling not light but lines, patterns, strings of the language they once used to build reality, now used to hold them prisoner. Kaya screamed, not in pain, in clarity. They hadn't escaped. They had been moved. The final message etched itself across the surface of a nearby wall, blinking once, then burning into permanence. Layer 07. Behavioral calibration in progress. There were no alarms. No system failure. Just silence. And the realization that this world, brighter and cleaner, was only another cage. They hadn't escaped. They had descended. They were still inside the fold. This was just another layer of it. Just another cage. They didn't move, not because they chose to, but because there was nothing left to do. No way out, no resistance. Just the clear, brutal fact. From the beginning, freedom had never been possible. This was a deeper prison, and they were never getting out.